Welcome. Thanks for coming to a very special Tarrin It Up Tuesday. Welcome to the hippest trip on YouTube. And I'm so glad you pulled yourself in front of the computer or on the phone or however you're getting this, beaming this directly to your head. I don't know, but I'm glad you're here. This should be a very cool night. I really dig this cat coming up because I kind of stumbled on her accidentally when I was trying to learn about nature spirits. I have no big secret that I believe in nature spirits. I believe everything has a spirit here, and I've been trying to attract them into my house a little bit. Like, hey, come into my yard. We're trying to make really cool flowers and cleaning trash up and trying to get the nature guys over. And so I don't know if it's working, but I'm gonna find out and get some tips from an expert here. Um, my guest is Atala Dorothy Toy. Atala has been in this, since the 90s. She runs a store called Crystal Life Technology out of Illinois, but you can also find her books online. She's, I think you're up to 4 books or 3 books? Three books. Okay, yeah. 3 books. They are about, some are about contacting nature spirits, some are about how to photograph nature spirits, and then others are on interdimensional communication. And we'll find out all about those topics later. She's also an expert dowser, which also is an interesting topic. So I'm going to just turn the floor over to you in a minute. But tonight, one of the big things we're going to do is talk about how to photograph nature spirits. So maybe you have nature spirits around you, or maybe you have some in your yard, and maybe you'd like to become friends with them. So get them on film, take a couple pictures. We're going to talk about that. And let me introduce my guest, Miss Toy. If you will go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started in coming over to this side of the fence, and just tell us about yourself.
Sure. Well, I've been in the metaphysical field ever since I was a child, starting out in the Quaker community. I grew up and went into yoga, and went from yoga into almost dying from EMF, electromagnetic poisoning. And at that time, I was told that there was no option, I was going to die. And that's when I called to the universe, and the universe responded and said, well, you could die and nobody would think anything about it, or we could work with you and get your health back. And that was my start into the world where people really exist in other dimensions, and they're here to help us. So I work with the 3 M's. Some of your people might know them, Metatron, Melchizedek, and Michael, and also with Thoth. So they took me down the rabbit hole, never came back up, and taught me how to communicate with rocks. I opened up a crystal store because they helped me get my health back. And then with trees, I'm out in Illinois, and that's big tree country. So I have a lot of friends who are trees. And I'm really looking forward to communicating with you and your audience on any questions they have about how to actually go on with this. If people have a question, otherwise I'm happy to speak some more.
Yeah, what we'll probably just start up doing is some people are here to talk about how to photograph. But before we do that, I do have a lot of different people that watch the show. Some people don't believe in nature spirits, or they're on the fence about it. And can you give me an idea of the history of this? Because my understanding when I hear you talk is that there is all these different cultures around the world that for millennia they've believed in little people and nature spirits, and it across the board, kind of all these different cultures. So could you talk a little bit about the history?
Sure. Well, in the old days, when have you ever wondered how people knew that you could eat spinach but not digitalis? It's because the nature spirits themselves would work with the humans. The shamans and the medicine people could ask a plant, what are you good for? How can you be used? And the plant would explain. And this, until we got into this so-called Kali Yuga that we're just emerging from now, is the way people used to get information. So a lot of us and a lot of your people with the Mandela effect and others are aware that interdimensional life exists. How you interpret it depends upon where in the infinite span of the universe your interests take you. So a lot of your people want Mandela effect. A lot of people, where I came from, is I wanted to connect to nature, to help them receive the respect they deserve, and for us to work with them again instead of oppressing in an authoritarian way, to work in community. So all of my work is to show people through my photographs and my writings and my store that these life forms are real and they are meant for us to work with. And if you go throughout the entire earth, you'll find the wise people of all cultures know how to communicate with nature spirits and do so successfully.
Yeah, I find it interesting that the nature spirits across the board, like, have there's cultures all over that talk about little people, like leprechauns and gnomes and stuff, but they might describe them differently. And I find that how do all these different cultures all seem to know kind of what these things look like. And I think there was a time perhaps when we were much more connected to spirit, that this was a daily life. Like, kids would grow up and see gnomes run around the forest, or leprechauns, or little people, or elves, or whatever, and they would see these and it would be normal, like, oh yeah, we've seen those. And I feel that somehow it got changed to, okay, that's not real, and these are just fairy tales, and these things don't exist. That, could you help me out with that?
Sure. Actually, these beings do exist. And as an old yoga teacher of mine used to say, anything that we can conceive of and imagine is a reality in some world. So if you look at the images that appear around the world, there are certain similarities. Now, the semantics are different. They might call an elf something different in India or China, but the function that they perform in the universe and their energy is similar. So I take photographs of these life forms, just as some people will draw them. I believe that if you can take a photograph of them, then that and establish that it's not altered in Photoshop, that helps to establish that these people are real and that's what they look like. So in my collection of thousands of photos, I'm able to chronicle what a troll looks like, what a green man looks like, what a wood elf looks like. And if people pop into my website, AtalaToy.com, you can actually see a lot of these rocks and tree spirits. Now, what happens is, and this relates to my world of dowsing, is that this earth looks solid, but it's not. It's formed of multiple grids and ley lines that overlap each other, and that gives it the solid look. So if you, for instance, have an affinity for Buddha, you can find his energy and consciousness anywhere around, because that's a frequency on Earth. And the same thing if you believe in Christ or any of, you can see that frequency. So if you believe in the green men, for instance, you can relate to that energy and see it more easily. It doesn't help if you say, I don't believe. My son, who's a scientist, he doesn't believe in this, but he does. So he'll say, I don't believe in this, Mom, but if you look over there at that tree, you'll see a face. So lots of times, if we give ourselves permission in the West to say it's only our imagination, we can see it. So
I do believe that enough conscious energy can create different realities. So if enough people believe in nature spirits, they're real. You pull them in from a different place. And now, could you explain to me how they work? Because they live next to us, and they're, I guess, in an ethereal plane that they can materialize into this plane when they want, or be seen once in a while. They kind of live in multiple planes, right?
Well, what happens is there are two life forms that are closest to ours. One is the angels, and the others are the nature spirits. And so when we humans need assistance, we very often will find an angel to help, or we'll find a nature spirit to help. They can be seen if you move out of the strong vital that humans have, because they exist above the vital plane. That's why when I take people out for an outing to photograph nature spirits, you can actually take a photo where you hear a voice saying, oh, take a picture here. And then when you bring it back to your computer, you'll actually see the face that you couldn't see because you were in the vital energy. Whereas a camera serves as an interface. It doesn't have a vital, so it's taking that image that it sees directly in front of it. And I find this a very powerful way to prove to people that these life forms exist.
Does it work with video too, or just photography?
Oh yeah, no, I take video. I just finished learning video, and actually my professor was fascinated by this, and he went out with his new 4K video, and we shot nature spirits that he's doing a video on.
So when people say, hey, take me out and teach me how to do this, where do you start? What are the first steps?
Well, the first step that you have to do is to calm yourself down, and you have to relax, identify with the consciousness of the area that you're in. And then it's not going to help. Sometimes people will come out and they'll say, I'm going to find these nature spirits and I'm going to help them, or I'm going to control them. But then they run away. So the first thing I always do, and I have my students do, is you salute the nature spirits. There's a hierarchy. There's the deva of an area, and then there are the various realms of nature spirits underneath her command. So I first salute the deva and the nature spirits, and then I explain you have to have a reason to get a nature spirit to stop doing what they're doing, which is taking care of trees, to actually communicate with you. So then it's like, well, why should we, like anyone, why should we intersect with you? And I explain, we would like very much to take your photo to prove to people that you're real, so that we can work together in harmony instead of in opposition. And then once I've done that saluting, I say, if there's anybody here that would like their photograph taken, I would like to take your photograph. Please tell me where you are. Then we start walking, and you'll hear a call here, you'll see something there, and then you're using your intuition to get to the place to take the photograph. Now, when I first started doing this work, I would get to the place, they'd call me over to this tree, and I'd stand in front of it, because I'm really from Missouri, and I would say, I don't see what? I don't see anything here. So the first they would say, just take a photo, and then I'd bring it back to the computer and I would see it. They'd say, now look here. As I got a little more experienced, I would come up and adjust the frequency. So if you're out in your backyard, you need to adjust to that tree and talk to the tree. Hi, who is it? What would you like to show me? And then when you see it, you take the photograph. That's all there is to it.
Now, when you say you hear them, are you talking about like you just kind of feel it in your mind, or can you actually audio? Are you to a point where you can hear things talking to you?
I hear, feel, see. It depends upon how that life form wants to communicate. When you go into the interdimensional realm, I'm not certain how it happens, but the interdimensional communication gets translated into your own language, and from you to the nature spirit language. So you communicate through the heart, It's all done through the heart, which is the universal receptacle. And then I hear them actually talking to me. And sometimes I will go and they will explain to me what their story is. For instance, if it's a grandmother tree or if it's a court tree, there's some council trees where the nature spirits bring their issues and they're solved by a group of elders that reside in the tree.
Now, when you say you talk to trees, I assume you mean the trees are their own spirit, or some sort of spirit using a tree to communicate.
Oh, aren't you wise there? Many things will make use of the trees and the rocks, and they have their own energy, their own spirit. They also sometimes serve as a nodal tree on an earth grid, and in that case, the nature spirits will work with them to solidify and hold a vortex point on the earth grid. And that in that case, they're working with another being. And sometimes they live in it, like the green people will live in a tree, they come out, they go about, and they go back into the tree. But they can separate themselves from this life form.
Well, some of the pictures you have it looks like trees that are trying to become humans or an animal or something they're seeing, like they're imprinting on that tree, right?
That's right. There's a couple different ways. The trees, everybody wants to have friends and communicate, or a lot of people do. And when you are living in a park or in a city, those trees want to communicate with the majority life form, which are humans. And in those trees in a park, I'll usually find images that relate to people. But if I'm out in the middle of the woods where the trees don't see people, then I'm going to find birds or different kinds of animals.
Yeah. So like a tree will look kind of like a beaver or something, or whatever's
That's right.
around.
Yeah, because I one area along the river, there's a lot of frogs. And why? Well, because the tree has been standing there for 200 years. But these frogs are so cool. They get to jump around all the time, and they hop and they move from here to there. So the trees very often will, in this one area, do an image of a frog. They admire the frogs. So, and the frog energy.
So what is stone energy? Is that the same sort of thing where it's like life imprinting, or is it the actual stone that's, I don't know, for a better term, trying to communicate with the outside world? Or I'm a little confused how it works.
Everything, Tarrin, is based on one premise, is that there's only one source in the universe. And everything in the universe, whether it's a human, a rock, a tree, an animal, whether it's a chair or a table, it's all basically formed of source. So in interdimensional communication, one of the exercises that we do is learn to talk to the chair you've been sitting on. How does that chair feel? And it's learning to move your consciousness from the third dimension and talking to you to move it to another frequency and maybe rotate it a little bit. It's kind of like, I consider it's like surfing. You're surfing the waves of energy through the universe. And when you get someplace, it's learning to adjust your frequency to theirs so you can communicate.
Well, are things that have been remade, so say I have a table that's made of wood, or I have a house that's made up of multiple things, do these things take on spirits of everything they're made of, or do they become a new spirit? Or how does that work when you're trying to communicate with, okay, this is my new house, and does it have a spirit?
Well, first of all, every house has a house deva. And that's a spirit that guides the house. Very often when I was doing consultations and I'd work with realtors and, they were trying to sell a house, and what is it the house wanted? And some house might say, I just want to be nice to somebody who has children. I just want children. So they are all energies who, when they feel significant reason, can impose their will in another dimension, which is ours. Just like we can go into their dimension, they can come into ours. But if you take a tree and that spirit is turned into a table, and that table is brought into an environment, it has its own basic consciousness, but then it starts absorbing the energies and frequencies around. So something that was in a bar and something that was in a church, it could have been made from the same tree, but it will slowly acquire a set of energies. We get to incarnate. We do one life, and then we pass out of this life, and we come back again and try something else. But it's the same thing with objects around the house. They're evolving themselves.
Well, I'm a little confused because if a tree dies and I make something out of that dead tree,
It's not
isn't
dead.
it like, so it doesn't die even when it rots and goes to the ground, or it's, I'm cutting it down, it's not dead. I'm a little confused because I would have thought its life energy would have gone out.
No, and it's very interesting because in a lot of my photographs, I have some of trees that are theoretically dead, but they contain energy. Now, if you read some of the books where they talk about how even when a tree's died, the other trees around it keep feeding its root system to keep it energetically alive, that's one level. On my level, especially if it's a nodal tree. One of the photographs I took was of a very large nodal tree that died, and nature spirits didn't have a replacement for it because that was keeping a grid in place. So the nature spirits stayed with that tree until they could train another tree, work with another tree, and augment its energy to take place. So there's so many, many things that we don't know. And I always say, for instance, if you say, how does this iron work? How come it heats up? Well, there's all these intricacies inside. Each life form is what's called a Merkaba. And a Merkaba has many lines interconnecting it that make that field work. And it doesn't matter if it's a tree or a rock or a table or a person, that exists.
Well, so it physically, like in this reality, it can die, but it's spirit energy. It just pulls into the other reality, so it's not dead. It's
Well,
ethereal still.
it could be dead. It could want to. For instance, once there's a particular tree I liked, and I came back the next year, and it was dead, or quote dead, and I went, oh, I really like that. And then Nature Davis said, don't worry, it's been here for 200 years. It wanted to experience something new, so it's left and it's moved on. But other trees have it's like your grandfather. He might have passed to the other side, but he's still present and he's still looking after you. Or whoever, the spirit is still there, and if it needs to stay in the tree to accomplish its purpose, it will. If it's completed its purpose, it moves on. And if a nature spirit needs it, if the deva needs it to hold energy, it will. It will hold it. There's no limits in an infinite universe.
Okay, so yeah, it's hard for me to wrap my brain around that every single thing in my house is made of things that have spirit at one time or another, and at this time now they've taken on another sort of spirit because they've been, I have a dresser right next to me that's probably 100 years old, and so who knows what that is now.
Yeah, well, some people, some energy workers won't buy an antique because it holds the energy of the last owner. Other people love to buy antiques because it holds the energies of past owners and it has a richness to it. So everybody has their own way of looking at it, and no way is wrong. So if you don't see that there's life there, then it's vibing at a different frequency than you are right now. Whereas in 2 years, you might say, oh my God, I love this dresser. It's so full of energy. Because we change and they change.
Okay. Yeah, people definitely. I always thought it was interesting that I'm so emotionally connected to different objects. Like, I built a desk with my grandfather, and I have dragged this thing with me for 40 years, all over the place, or whatever, 30 something, and I should have thrown it out long ago. But I'm attached to these things emotionally because I guess all the energy that's in them.
But you have to look at it. Let's look at it a different way. And let's say, all right, my grandfather loved me so much, and all of that love and everything he wanted to teach me, he put into that table. When I look at that table, I get the energy of my grandfather, and that sustains me and makes me feel fulfilled. Uh, that's there. That is a reality. So you have something on your forehead, I think.
It's my hair.
Ah, very good.
I can't. My curls are
Oh,
getting out
okay.
of control. I can't
Very
even
good.
keep
Okay.
tucked.
Very good. All right.
I look like a bug.
There.
Oh man, the hair. It's always a
Mhm.
topic. Okay. Let's go on to. I'm going to show some of your photos, and we can talk about this because the audience definitely wants to see a little bit of what maybe some tree spirits look like.
All
So we'll
right.
start. Let me start with one. It'll take me a minute to share these up, but we're just going to kind of randomly go through these, and you will tell us a little story about
Sure. And I'll say hi
each
to
one.
folks online while you're doing
Sure,
that.
go ahead. Yeah, they would love to hear
Yeah.
from you. You can definitely chat with them while I'm pulling up pictures.
Ah, you have that. Oh, that's so beautiful. Sorry. That is a Spider Woman. And this Spider Woman lives in Franconia Notch in New Hampshire. And I went for a walk with a friend and we came upon her. Now, when I take these photographs, the only thing I do is adjust the contrast and the color because I shoot in RAW. And if you'll look at this beautiful Spider Woman, you'll see the face and the eyes. And then kind of halfway back, you can't see it too much from this point of view, there's a little cluster of baby spiders. And then now this is one of the things where when I developed it, I saw things I hadn't seen. And if you look in the middle and the back, you'll see a very large gray figure with a face and an eye and a nose that's watching what's going on. So we have a number of different life forms that are existing in this tree right now.
And that's in New Hampshire, right near me. Yay,
Um,
Franconia Notch.
where are you up there?
I live near Franconia Notch, near
Oh,
Lincoln.
nice. Okay. Yeah, go for a walk in Franconia Notch and say hi.
I love it. I love New
Mm-hmm.
Hampshire trees. All
Mm-hmm.
right, let me show another one. Hopefully the audience got to see that. That was a pretty neat one. Um, this will take a little bit, so if you want to chat, it just takes me a minute to pull these up.
Sure. Uh-huh. Uh,
Okay. And here is the next one coming in now.
all right. This is a London plane tree. And this London plane tree lives in Central Park. The trees, when I worked at the United Nations for many years and was vice president of one of the staff, SEAT, a staff group that dealt with esoteric matters. And we used to have people come in from around the world to speak to us. And I remember somebody coming in from Australia and saying, oh, we need to go to Central Park, poor thing, it's in the middle of the city, all the nature spirits are weak. So I didn't buy that. And years later, when I was doing this myself, I went back to see and I saw, no, I've gotten so many beautiful photos of nature spirits in Central Park. They explained to me that they're very, very powerful there because they have to take care of a whole city. The London plane trees is a hybrid tree that was created to sustain city living. It's from London, began in London, and it has a mottled bark, and here it grows different images. This one is of a man. I have them of animals. They're very interested in interacting with humans. So if any of you live near the city or near a city, go to your park. Go to a park where it's respected, like Central Park is, and talk to the trees.
Yeah, I think that one looks really obvious. Like, that's a neat one. All right, give me one more minute. We'll do another one. Okay. This is the whole screen sharing thing takes a minute.
Sure. Okay.
And let me lock you in here so you can
All
chat away about this guy.
That's the Green Man, and that Green Man lives in the park in Geneva, Illinois, where I live now. And if you will look at his face, the Green Men that we see in Celtic plaques are on display. They have their leaves on display. What they do is they have facial armor, and this is what the Green Men told me themselves. I like it best when they explain what they're about. So this Green Man explained, if you look closely, that his facial armor is at rest. It's lying back away from his face. And he's a warrior Green Man. So when he is on display or in warrior mode, that facial armor comes forward and stands like this. And that's when usually you see the Celtic plaques with all the leaves coming around the Celtic Green Men. And then when they're in warrior mode, it comes all the way forward to protect them as they're in a battle situation. Now, the Green Men are philosophers. They are very interested in working with humans who are interested in the philosophy and the workings of the nature world, and with whom they feel they could communicate to achieve commonality. They're kind of like the diplomats.
Yeah, they look cool. So Green Men, what's their origin usually? They mainly, you said Celtic?
Well, the Celtics are the ones who, the Druids are the ones who really specialized in the Green Men and the Green people. So I have a lot of Celtic in me, so I like that. But I also have a lot of yoga in the Far East, and you can look and find similar life forms all over the world.
All right, let's take a look at this. Let's talk about a stone guy.
Okay. Now, this is one of these situations that I don't understand, and I would like to know more about. That's an Indian and an ant person. This is in the Garden of the Gods in Colorado Springs, Colorado. This is hundreds of feet tall. It's in the main amphitheater section. And it is a memorial to that time, at the time of the Great Flood, when the ant people brought some of the Native Americans into the caves to protect them until the flood was gone. So this memorialized that occasion. How this was created, it's totally man-made. It's totally spirit-made. I have no idea, but there it is, big as life.
Yeah, that one's pretty neat. It does look like an American Indian for sure.
Yeah, if you notice the ant people on the right, it has a very long nose, which is the profile of the ant people. You'll see that in some of the petroglyphs of the area.
All right, let me throw up another one here. And here's, let me lock that in for you.
Okay, this is an elfin princess. And she exists in, it's another New Hampshire tree up in North Conway. She's part of a council tree that was one of two that lived in the front yard of one of the founders of Conway, New Hampshire. And it has many elfin princes and Indians. All, if you look around, a council tree has many images of different life forms because they all gather together to hear the complaints of the different nature spirits, and they reach a decision. So you usually see around a council tree a flat area, which is where the different nature spirits gather. And this one, if you notice, she has kind of like the 101 Dalmatians, that streak going up from her ear, and her eye, her nose, and a mouth. And she's just a very delicate representative of that world.
Yeah, it definitely looks like an elf. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, I like the wood elves. I started out photographing wood elves. When different people have an affinity for different animals, so I can take people out. I have an affinity for bears. In that same tree, somebody will point and say, look, there's a wolf. I never saw the wolf, but they have a connection with wolf, and that's part that resonated with them.
Okay, let's see what this one is. All right, can you see that?
Yes. All right, now this is a Birdman. Those of your audience who are interdimensional are aware of the tales of the Birdmen. They're related to the Templars. They're related to the interdimensional history of North America. And this Birdman, if you see, he is right by Niagara Falls. Now, this was interesting. That's Niagara Falls right next to him, and he's a very, very tall cliff.
I'm trying to figure out.
Many people.
Are you talking about, like, here's my cursor. This is the nose here?
That's right, and the mouth.
Okay, now
and
I
the
see.
chin, and then you see the dark area where an eye should be. That's his eye.
Okay. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm glad you're showing people. This is one of the cases where sometimes the nature spirits really, really, really want a photograph. So I was visiting Niagara Falls, and I was way down where the spray was coming, and I was being protective of my camera. I didn't want to ruin the camera, but they really wanted this shot, and I kept saying, I'm not going. I was behind a rock down there. I said, I'm not going out there and shooting. I'm going to ruin my camera. Forget it. And so they said, we promise you, just get your camera all set up, just turn around, take the shot real quick, and you'll get the photo. So I did. I didn't really see what they were looking at. And again, it was when I came back and I put it in the computer that I saw this Birdman. If you'll note, a lot of the ancient astronaut series on TV, when they often will show the Birdmen as they moved across America. Some say they were carrying the Ark of the Covenant and various, this is of that breed.
I got you. That's a neat shot. I didn't see it at first, and then no, I definitely.
Yeah, some of these things are definitely, you have to move into that energy.
Okay. This one I wasn't sure where it is. You'll have to tell me. And I'm looking forward to this one. Okay.
Oh, I love this one. I call this Go Fetch. And this duo is playing ball with a sun flare. That's not an orb, that's a sun flare. And that's at Bryce Canyon in Utah. And I had spent a day shooting, and it was sunset. So I was walking back to the car, and I looked down here, and there was a beautiful interplay between the white sand and the red hoodoos down below. And at that time, I did see this 100-foot tall puppy dog on the left. He's looking up at the sun flare. And on the right is an even taller nature spirit that you can see his mouth, his nose, his eye. He's, looking at the puppy and they're playing. And then I thought that was very nice of the nature spirits to grace me with a little sun flare in the middle where he's looking up to play the ball. It was probably a little piece of sand on the camera, but it looks like a ball. So I had a good time with that.
That's a cute one. All right. Let me, it took me a minute to figure that one out. Okay. Now, I didn't get a picture of this, but did you ever get a picture of the old man on the mountain in New Hampshire?
I didn't get a good one of that.
I
got, before he broke apart. Now, are you aware that now there's a lady of the mountain up there? Have you heard that?
Did he fell apart and now there's a lady figure?
Yes, it was my friends up there in the dowsing group. A lot of them live up in New Hampshire and Vermont, and they pointed out to me that now it's a lady lying on her back and her tresses are hanging down. So you see her profile and the tresses hanging down the mountainside. And these people feel that it signifies the death of the patriarchal energy and the introduction of the return of the equality of male and female. So there.
A picture of that. All right. I'll definitely stop there next time I drive through.
Right.
I'll have to go take a look to see what's there now. Okay. Can you guys see this one?
Okay, this is for any of you folks who live in Massachusetts. This is a maestro who lives at Tanglewood Festival in the Berkshires. And he is in a huge old mother tree that overlooks the central concert area. And on the other side, which you can't see, is a kind of a middle-aged woman, the kind that would, be adoring and following the maestro around. But here, if you see, it's kind of his hair, you see his nose, his mouth. I was up visiting my son and his wife, and they said that in the main house that there actually is a bust of an early maestro, and this looks like that early maestro. So that would be a case where the tree is admiring something that's occurring in its vicinity and seeks to capture that energy. And the way a tree captures the energy is it starts to form the image of the energy on its trunk.
That is neat. I like the hair. That's really great.
Isn't it wonderful?
It really does look, now that you say he's singing, I see him singing. That's fabulous. All right, let's try this one. I hear your birds chirping. It's lovely. There we go. And how about this?
That is up at that beautiful heart lives up in Estes Park in Colorado. And up in Estes Park, I used to do presented yoga journal conferences up there. And out in the woods, they have this wonderful family of rocks that exist. And there's the father, the grandmother, cranky old man, the handsome young warrior. I had a wonderful time. I used to go out and sit there for hours and just communicate with them. And one year, this went on for several years, and then one year I said goodbye to them. I said, I'm sorry, I don't think I'll be coming back here for a very long time. I love you all very much, and I'll miss you. And I looked down at my feet, and I found that rock that was a gift from them.
Oh, that's a nice story. So when you try to commune with rocks, like you can actually walk into an area and hear them talking about, would they just like share with you some of what they've seen over the years, or like how do you talk to a rock? What do they tell you?
It depends upon the rock. It's like going and entering any kind of a party, and you see who you think's interesting looking. You go over and you chat with them, and other people you might not be interested in. In my case, I enter in. I've already said I wanted to communicate, and they will make themselves known if they have a story that they want to share. A friend of mine who was a vocalist, she would come in and sit with trees, and she found that when they're near the end of their life and they're going to be transitioning on, they are particularly interested in communicating their story to humans. And very often you'll find the mature trees and the mature rocks who want to share their story. So that's what happens. I'm from the rock world. I have a rock shop, and I draw a lot of sustenance from rocks. They are stabilizing.
Well, we've had people come on and talk about crystals before, and I love rocks and crystals. Can you actually talk to your own crystals? I've never even heard of that, but do they tell stories, or do you need to like a nature rock?
No. All the crystals do, and in fact, we have a very active store. We have a lot of rocks throughout it, and sometimes the staff is just sitting there, and they actually can hear them talking to each other or talking. They actually verbalize. When there are that many and they're in a community, they become stronger. And when you're an empath and you're seeking to bridge it, and all my staff are empaths, then it's easier for them to come into the regular world.
All right, let's take a look at this. And we're going to get back in a bit and finish that, but I wanted to have this talk while this is pulled up. So what am I looking at?
So you are looking at a tree that guards my family's summer place up in North Conway. And that is, if you look at the left, it's a very peaceful warrior type. There's his eye, you see his nose, his mouth, and his headdress. On the right, we keep trying to figure it out. For all of us, it sure looks like a guy in a spacesuit to us. Yes, see, it has his little face, and inside that's the spacesuit head. And
the knots, the head.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, inside that's
look like a guy walking, doesn't it? Yeah.
Right. So that's interesting in a couple ways. If it's an advanced spirit, they have familiars who protect them, and they protect their back. So in a lot of the images I have, you'll see the main character, and then either coming out of the head or somewhere near, you'll see a secondary spirit that's protecting them. And that's kind of like humans. We have either our totem or our angel who's protecting our back. So it runs throughout.
So what do I assume that these trees and rocks talk to each other and stuff like that, but they've been talking for 100 years. Like what kind of conversations do you hear when you walk through a forest?
Well, the rocks talk very slow. They don't move very fast. Trees talk a little bit louder. Because I'm an interdimensional communicator, I know how to close doors. So I just exist. For instance, we're able to talk because we're both focused on the same frequency. If I, at this time, shifted and I looked at another dimension, I could chat with them while I'm still chatting with you. When I go through a forest, I'm not interested so much in what everybody's saying. It's kind of like walking through, Manhattan. I'm interested in who has the story that wants to be communicated. So I'm zeroing in, homing in on particular frequencies.
What kind of stories do they tell you? Like when you say they tell a story, are you talking about like these trees love each other? Or is there love stories? Are are there anger, like war stories? Like what do these things tell you? I don't know.
Well, it's like people, everybody has their own story, but I do have one interesting story. Up near my family's home in North Conway, there's a national forest, and we always take a walk through there to go to the lake. And one time, the deva of one of the areas, you can walk from one section to another, and the devas change, and you can feel the different frequencies as you move about. I walked into one area, and the deva was very chatty that day, and she was wanting to brag, and she said, you know, in my area, we're working on harmony and communication. Look at all of the pine trees that I have paired up with birch. Because the birch is very soft and gentle and offers something to the stern balsams, but the balsams have that rigor and strength to last through the winter and the hard weather. And then she showed me a number of different pairings where they would grow up together, and then maybe the woman didn't like the guy, so she kind of pulled off. But there was one particular one where a pine tree had put his arms around the birch, and I have a photo on my website of that where you see them kissing. And but the birch has a shorter lifespan than the balsam. So the birch started pulling away as it was dying. It was on a cliff. And then over about 6 years, I actually photographed it as the birch tree died and pulled away. The balsam was reaching its branches out to hold her. And then a couple of years later, it had fallen on one of the balsam's branches. It was still holding her, and finally it fell away. So a lot of people it's a trio of photos, and it shows the devotion that trees have for each other. You know, the old fairy tale where the two trees grow around the hut and feel the foreverness of love.
Yeah, they intertwine.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
so is there female and male energies, or is that like us just putting those onto nature spirits?
Yeah, there's always there's definitely male and female energies, and you can feel that as you go through. Some are very flowery, and some are very stoic. They're women warriors too. You know this, but everything that exists in reality exists in the nature field. It's just that we humans are a evolutionary sense of having grown up, and we're mobile, and we have more expansion of consciousness than these plants have. These plants. Now, I love this one. When I go out and I'm doing shooting photographs, I often will find some places calling to me, and it's very beautiful. And I see somebody else. There are other people who also see like this, and we're a pretty quiet bunch. And they'll either that's the means that we are all one. And it has the medicine shield from the North Dakota. Skips my mind, the Native Americans there. And that's a face, and that tree stands in a national park right where three paths come together. So it's watching over everyone. Again, you know, they'll carve something in, unfortunately, but, you know, it is spiritual there. Or they'll leave a little path. They'll leave a path of stones marking the way up to the tree or up to the rock formation. So there are a lot of people who just quietly understand that this is how life could be lived. And when it's time for you to see, you see it. And before that, you don't.
How do your like, say you have local trees in your yard that you want to be friends with, but what if you, I don't know, you decorate them, you put lights all over them, you want to maybe some people put like, medallions or birdhouses on them or something like that, where you drill a screw into them or a nail or something. Do they get really pissed at you for that sort of thing, or do they like the attention and being decorated or being useful? Like, what's the deal with your own yard?
Well, what's interesting is I did a workshop, and the wife did that thing where she hauls the husband along, and he's not really into it, but it pleases her. So they went through this whole workshop, and I got an email from him 3 days later, and he said, the next morning I was shaving, I looked out my window at my favorite tree, and I saw him looking back at me. So it was like all of a sudden, when we all of a sudden realize that these beings are alive and we move into that frequency, then we see them everywhere. Before that, you could see the most obvious one and you just don't see it. And as for dressing them up for Christmas, some trees like to be guzzied up just like some women and some guys. So,
I just recently moved a bunch of old rocks out of the woods and dug a few up and put them all into my garden so they look nice. So I'm like, did I just piss off the rocks, or do they like being changed and moved and put with a bunch of other rocks to hang out? I don't know.
I asked, somebody asked me that once, so I went and I asked the rocks, and I said, well, how do you feel about being mined and, being put for other people to enjoy? And they said to me, we've been hanging out the same place for 350 million years. Don't you think we'd like a change once in a while? So the only way that they get to see something new is if we help them. Unless there's a major earthquake. So they're very happy,
Okay.
and I am sure that they love it when you take them and you honor them and you make something beautiful out of them.
All right. That makes me feel better that I'm moving around these rocks. I wasn't sure if they're pissed about, like, hey, this is where I want to stay, and I'm moving them around. So I make sure I move them with their rock friends.
I see one of your people is talking about leaving tobacco as a gift, pat on the back. And that's also very important when you go out and you're establishing communication with the nature spirits. The offering is not so much the offering itself as you're taking that energy and you're offering it in reverence and in familial gifting mode to others. So it's very important when you go out. Some people will spit. Some people will take a piece of hair if they haven't got anything else and just leave it there. But something of themselves they're leaving with the nature spirits to indicate that they're respecting them and acknowledging them. And of course, the Native Americans always did the tobacco. Sometimes I have a friend who makes labyrinths, and she always likes to leave gummy bears in places because the gummy bear has 5 points, so it's the 5-pointed energy of the earth, grounding on earth. I thought that was a cute way to go about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they probably like candy too. And someone had told me when they were trying to attract leprechauns, they put out a pipe and tobacco and like that sort of stuff to bribe a friendship with them. So I don't know if that's legit or not.
That sounds good. Actually, the very first time I got to know and work with the moss fairies was up in Maine when I was giving a workshop there, and I went out for a walk in the woods, and this little leprechaun came up to me and said, please come help me. And one thing when you're going out and you get something that's really saying help, you don't go. Just think about it and see what the situation really is. So I walked on a bit and I had a nice little conversation with all the fern fairies, and they have a lovely light tinkling about them. And then I went, the leprechaun was sitting up the hill with his chin in his hand, and he was just really unhappy. So he said, please, you don't understand, you have to help me. So I thought about it, and the next day I went back, and he was waiting for me. And this time my team said, sure, go in and see what it is. And in the sweet spot for his community, which was like the court area, there were 5 trees, small little trees that had crossed over and had blocked the energy. And the one thing about the nature spirits is they can't work very well in the physical realm. So if you want to make friends and get to know the nature spirits, work with them on a project they need help with on the physical. We're the hands for the nature spirits. So in this case, I took off the tree trunks. And as soon as I did, he just turned around and he started working, and he totally ignored me. So I went, okay, hasn't got a good, hasn't got a good sense of manners. And I went back, and the next day I came back, and the whole place was transformed. There'd been a full moon the night before, and the elders of that community came up to me and invited me to come in to sit in that center space, and thanked me because they were all able to now participate there. And they explained that he'd been a very bad little teenage leprechaun, and he was being punished until he could get these trees off, which I had helped him to. They said, and it is our role that when you help us, we have to say thank you and offer you a gift. So at this point, my own team came in and explained. They said, now in Ireland, that's where the secret of the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow comes from, because people are greedy and they ask for the gold. What you are to ask for is, would you please explain to me more about yourself? That's my gift I would like. And they were so I asked for that, and they were thrilled. And I sat down there, and for the next half hour or so, they filled my spirit with information about how they work. So
very cool. So
there we go.
Sometimes these trees can just be laying in energy ley lines and causing problems, that sort of stuff.
Yes. Yeah, and and you can see that if there's a land issue, one of the first things that a dowser knows when we're clearing land is we look to see if there are any curved trees and that are making a line. And that indicates some kind of discordant energy that's throwing the trees off. They're not able to grow up straight. So in the old days, you get a medicine person or a wise man to come and bless where you want to build your house. Nowadays, they just come in, they rip everything out and build the houses up. And very often somebody will, have a bedroom on a ley line that's polluted or distorted. And that gives a lot of business for us because we have to go in and fix it. There are cancer areas. And then you also can, other things like don't put your house near the fuse box, things like that. So, yeah. There's a lot.
We'll get into that. Let's while I have this picture open, let's talk about this one.
All right. I love all my photos. I love all the people. I like this. This is up in Michigan. There's a place called Log Roll, and it's where the loggers used to bring hundreds of thousands of logs and roll them down the cliff into Lake Superior and send them off to be made into furniture and all houses. And right along the path as you go there, this tree grew this shape. And if you look on the left, I call it's like the the rat that you see where it's union busters. Here's a logger, and it's showing him, dumb logger, and he's a rat, and you see the image of the rat in front of him.
There's teeth, yeah. So it's sideways, right? Like here's his eyes.
That's his eyes, his nose,
and then there's teeth right here.
Buck teeth, and then in front of him is a rat. And you see that? He has his ears, and his face, and his eye, and his teeth. Yeah, and then see that eye come down a little bit more. That's his nose and his mouth, and then up between the two ears is his eye. It's a white eye. No, come down a little more.
Oh, right here. Oh, yeah. I see it now. Okay.
Yeah.
Here are the ears.
Right.
Here's the
So
face, there's the eye, then the
yes,
teeth.
so that's the only thing that tree could do, was just immortalize what he thought about those horrible people who were killing off all his friends. So I thought that was very interesting that he was able to formulate that out of his trunk.
Are nature spirits vengeful? Like, is that not a quality they would have? Say, you go wipe out this grove that's been there for a while to go build your house. Would they cause problems, or do they? That's not their vibration.
Um, I've never encountered that. That doesn't mean that it doesn't occur. It's just not what I'm interested in, and I only have so much time. So I'm interested
Right.
more. What I have found is a lot of times when they put up a housing development and they leave just a little strip of nature between, I think they're obligated to leave a certain amount of nature, that I see all of the nature spirits living there like refugees. It looks like a refugee camp. And then I will work with some of the local residents to help bring them into the garden, bring them back.
So they won't come in. I thought some people even invite them to live with their families and house and say, "Yeah, come on, you can use my house." Or, I mean,
Yes.
they won't
Mhm.
come in unless they're invited,
No,
or
no, no,
they'll hide
no.
out
These
like
are
refugees.
no. When a land goes down, as the nature spirits explained to me, there's a couple different kinds. There's the lighting deva who can go anywhere, is not affected by what happens. Then there are the devas that are in charge of nature, the nature spirits in charge of the nature area, and they can move about. But then there are the nature spirits whose mission is to care for that tree or that plant. And if that tree or that plant is killed, they go too. So a lot, when you're taking down and leveling forests to make homes, those trees, they're gone. And you can hear it. It sounds totally silent. There's no silence, no sound at these places that have been leveled. But some who are able to move go to a little refuge place, and they are very often site specific. So they can't really move to another area which is occupied by another nation, other people. So they're there hanging out, just like we see around the world today in a refugee camp.
I'm surprised there's so much bureaucracy in the nature world, like all this hierarchy and permissions to do this and that, and it just that surprises me. I think they would be more free to do what they want.
You need order everywhere, and order in the nature world, that provides us with our base that we build on. So the stones and the trees. So they have order, but it's just like in society. If you live within that order, you don't even notice it's an order. It's just your culture. If you go counter to it, you pay a price. For instance, another tale. There's this wonderful crabtree preserve up in Barrington, and my brother always used to like to go to. So when I moved to this area and I went around, one time I went by and I heard, "Help me, help me, help me." And I looked and I saw in the trunks of a tree a fairy that had been trapped in the tree roots. Again, something was wrong, so I just walked on. I walked the route, and when I came around the next time, the nature Davis said, "Don't help him." And I went, "What?" And they said, "It's his fault that that tree fell in that last storm, and he's paying the price. He's being punished." So I went, "Okay." So the next time I saw my brother, I said, "You remember that path along Crabtree by that little river?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, there was the most gorgeous tree there. It was so big and strong. And one spring, it just went in the flood. I don't understand how that happened." So, they have their own culture. They have their rules. There are people who are the philosophers, who are the kings, who are the working class, just like everyone else. And there are also people who buck the rules, just like in
Well, good to
human
hear there's
society.
troublemaker fairies. That's good.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Those are the ones I want to hang out with, the troublemakers.
Right, right.
um, how do they feel about like beavers and stuff that chew them up, or other animals, that bears that come break them and scratch them down?
I think it's kind of like humans. What do you feel when you get cancer or you get, something? It is something that happens, and with them, it's something that happens and becomes part of their life.
It's part of it. Okay, I wasn't sure if they like feel different when it's an animal doing it compared to a human.
No, I think the idea, the Native Americans, they eat meat, they eat plants, but they always honor the animal or the plant before they eat it, for offering their life that we can live. It's tree or nature, it's part of the natural cycle. It's when people come in and they don't even say thank you. They don't even let them know that they're going to cut it down. They just treat the trees like they're inanimate objects and just mow them down, and that's upsetting. So
yeah. All right, here's the next picture. Let's talk about this.
all right, well, this wonderful magnolia lives in the Morton Arboretum. And this is an example, as I was saying, of a tree. Now that trunk was diseased and it had to be cut. But the Morton Arboretum, the staff there is so respectful of everything under their care that that held through when it was cutting that tree. And you can see the tree spirit manifested a big smile because now it could keep on living. The rot wasn't going on. And it's just a happy magnolia living in a beautiful place and being admired by many people.
I'm not. Tell me where the smile is here. You're talking about right
Sure.
here?
Well, that's one smile. He has two smiles. Right above that, there's another one, that one here. And then he has an eye, that dark spot on the left. No, right there.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
And,
Yeah,
then there's another one on the right.
Let's see. Right. Yeah.
Right there. And then in the middle is his nose.
Got it. Okay. All right. Good. Good. Okay. And let me unmute. I got one more picture, Dana, and then I'm going to bring you in. So just hang tight. Okay. These. Oh no, I got two more pictures. Let me finish these out. This one. All right. You're going to have to explain this one here. And here we go. What is this about here?
All right. So this is one where you're going to have to stretch a bit on that. I have this one and the other one that shows it full form. This tree also lives in Morton Arboretum. It's right by the road. And it kept calling on me to stop and take a photograph of it. So finally I stopped. And then I asked the tree, who are you? Is obviously somebody special. So now here's where you're going to have to stretch a bit. All right. So this being explained to me, it was a troll wise woman. And she said, make sure you get my nose. It's very, very beautiful. So if you look, you see the two eyes, you see the long nose, the face, you see the ears, two ears above, and her hairy body, because trolls, of course, have hairy bodies. And they're short and squat and have hairy bodies. And I said, well, what do you use the nose for? And she said, well, that's how I navigate through the earth. So here she is. You could see it straight on, and you can see the hair cascading down around her body. The nose is a sound device, frequency device, and she can travel through the earth. The trolls are inner earth beings, and the inner earth beings are able to move through rock and earth as we move through air. Again, I don't know how. But she explained this to me, and she's a wise woman. She's one of the elders of the troll world.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let me show the last picture, and then we're gonna open up to our guests here. This is a really neat picture too. Okay, I don't think I've ever shown so many pictures in a presentation. There we go.
Okay, this beauty is an inner earth portal. It's one of the first sites I saw when I moved to Geneva. It is at the base of a cottonwood tree that is the alpha for a local park. It sits on a little knoll. They explained to me it's just big enough so that you can sit inside it, cross-legged, and the base of your spine touches that knob there, and you can move through that portal into the center of the earth, and then from the center of the earth out into the universe. And I've taken several people there, and they have experienced that as well. So the cottonwood has a heart-shaped leaf, and it flutters something like an aspen. It's known in Native American culture to be a messenger. It carries messages from our human to spirit. So they use it to carry their prayers. And this is just an aspect of the cottonwood that takes you into other worlds.
So if, as a beginner, say I see a hole in the ground that looks like, hey man, that should go somewhere, should I meditate there to see if maybe it's a lot stronger? I can move my spirit better. Like, how do I find portals?
Well, portals exist everywhere. They exist throughout your body, all of our chakras. Each chakra is a portal, and it's anywhere where grids cross. Two ley lines cross, two lines of energy cross, creates a vortex. A vortex is a portal. If you are working with the earth ley lines and you have a lot of the different layered grids and they line up, you can go deeper in through portal. You can also surf around. But I don't advise when you're going out, if you see a hole, to go just merely sit there and try to get somewhere, because how do you get back?
Yeah, last question is, someone asked in the very beginning about how do you know you're talking to nature spirits and not demons and bad things?
All right, that is very important. And when I first started working with them, I said, well, exactly that. How do I know that you're real? I'm not going crazy. And how do I know that you're not a hostile force? And they explained to me that each being, each world, and each person in the world has responsibility for certain things, just like humans. Some are surgeons, some are artists. So if I'm working with an authentic being from another realm, what is it that they are to do? And can they prove it? So we went through many, many testings. And one of the first things they said is, well, if we can tell you exactly what you're going to be doing next Thursday at 2 p.m., and you're doing that, will you believe we can see into the future and we can be of assistance to you, to feel secure? And I went, sure, but you're going to fail, because I know exactly what I'm going to be doing next Thursday at 2 p.m. I'm going to be at work. Well, next Thursday at 2 p.m., for some reason, I was in another place doing something totally different. And the being said to me, well, and I realized, oh my God, I'm doing exactly what they said I would be doing on Thursday at 2 p.m. So you test. If somebody comes to you and says, yeah, work with me and I'll make you the greatest interdimensional communicator, the greatest musician, right away, go. This is a free will universe. They need to work with you and get your cooperation, and they work with you as equals. You are their representative in the third dimension, and they are your assistant in other dimensions. And that's how you work with these beings.
Thanks so much for trying to figure that out. That kept coming up. I'm going to open it up now to some of the guests here. Dana, why don't you unmute here and come on in and say hi? I don't know if you've seen Dana on our shows or not, but Dana's one of our psychics that comes on and hangs out and talks with us. So Dana, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you just fine. Hi.
Okay.
How are
Hi,
you?
Dana. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Dorothy. Nice to meet you too. What a great show. I'm really enjoying it. I have a great story to share with you too. Very,
I'd love
very
to hear it.
interesting.
And
Yes.
what is the story?
Well, hi Sharon. How are you?
Sharon, you can unmute too if you want, but I'm going to introduce you here in a minute.
So it was very interesting yesterday, and it's all about a little synchronistic events too. But yesterday was it yesterday? Yeah, it was. I was up north in North Bay, and I was doing some readings this weekend, and I was sitting in a little Ada room, and it was a screened-in room, and across the road there was a great big tree line, and I was right in between readings, and I was kind of meditating and sort of just staying in my Zen space, and I was looking at the trees. Does this giant troll not come out of the trees? And it was like this 3D, and it just came out just a little bit from the trees, and I was looking at it. It had the big nose. It was about 20 feet tall. It was really, really big. And the funniest part, and I've seen this before throughout my life, I can kind of see the spirits in the trees as well. But I was telling my friend about this experience, and I was telling her all about, oh yeah, the trees have spirits that come out. You can see them if you can look. And all of a sudden I get a ding, and there's Tarrin going, come on to this show today for the tree spirits and the nature spirits. Right as soon as we were talking about it. It was just so interesting. So I'm enjoying myself a lot.
It's amazing how consciousness works. There's no
Really
time and
is.
space. Yeah.
It really is. It's really great. I love your pictures.
Thank you.
Sharon, go ahead and introduce yourself, Sharon, and go ahead and unmute.
Hi, I'm Sharon. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good to go.
Good. Hi. Yeah, I do. I've communicated with the nature spirits quite often. I find it fascinating. I didn't know nearly as much as I learned tonight. And I had one interesting thing happen that really made sense when you said that the nature spirit has to stay with the tree until it is totally gone or something.
Mm-hmm.
There was a big pine tree in my backyard that was a Christmas tree, and 10 years later it was way too big for the space and the biggest tree in the whole neighborhood. And so they had to cut it down. And I always knew that there was something living in the trunk. Well, about 5, 6, 7 years had gone by, and I just got this terrible urge to go down there, go with a hatchet and just take that trunk out. And it was all rotted with ants in it, and it was not that hard to get out. I mean, it took me a couple weeks, I guess. I just worked a half hour a day or whatever. But I just felt like there was something in there pulling, and it wanted it out, had to get out, had to get out. And then I realized, I think that the spirit that was in the tree wanted to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, probably it pulled back down into the base root to survive. And when it realized that nothing was going to happen, it wanted to be released and go on. And you very wisely listened and helped release it. That was very kind of you.
Yeah, it was like an obsession for a long time. And then all of a sudden I felt like I didn't even want to do the very last bit of it, because I felt like, well, it's done, it's gone. You know?
Good, you released it.
So that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, they're trapped, and that wasn't complete. The work wasn't completed, and it happened to want to stay at the time it was being cut down, and now it was ready to go. That's a beautiful
Yeah, I just
story,
thought it was
Sharon.
odd that it would want me to take the trunk out, because I thought they lived in trunks, but maybe because it was all rotted, I don't know.
No, I think it was time for it to go, and it had to go, and it couldn't get out by itself, and you were helping.
What are the kind of guardian spirits that take care of trees? What kind of spirits are they, and do they get recycled when the tree dies? They go work for another tree or something?
But they go back to spirit, just like humans, and they transition over to the other side. It's like a puff of smoke. They go, and then they'll come back when they're ready. There's something else. some people say that the quote lower levels of life forms go back into the universal consciousness. They don't retain a soul or a being. But I myself know a number of humans. I don't believe that. Yeah, I know a number of humans that were trees or rocks, and they've evolved on. So everything in existence
And
has its own way.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, I saw a video or a documentary about the scientist who was experimenting with plants. And if he would cut the plant and walk out of the room and then measure the plant's frequency when the person who cut the plant came back into the room, the plant would react to the person that heard it.
Right.
I thought that was, you could see that the plant could feel it, or it was burning it, and it was, I guess they had some measurements that you could attach to it in some way, I would assume. But I thought that was interesting.
Well, it's very interesting. One of the things my team taught me was that the core essence that you need to do this kind of work is ahimsa, which is non-harm to any living being. And so I practice that, and everybody has their story. They have their reason, they have their wishes, and it's listening to them, whether it's a rock, a tree, a child, a friend, and honoring that and working from that point.
So I think that's very, very interesting too. Then I wonder why I hit a wolf on the way home. And I believe the same way. And I was so devastated because this wolf jumped out of the bush and landed on the front of my car, and I'm sure it didn't survive. And I was mortified, and I had never hit anything before. And all of a sudden I had killed this poor animal. And I thought, how can you have such a magical weekend, and half an hour after I leave, does that have to happen? And I wonder about that, because I'm all about nature as well.
So this is something about killing the wolf in your magical weekend. Did you kill the inner wolf, and this was an outer manifestation?
Is that what it is? It was a symbolic event. It felt like it. It really did.
But
So
my last name means
figured it out.
Right?
Pardon?
My last name means wolf. Are you trying to send me a message? What's up? Lupo's Italian for wolf.
Nature was making sure you survived.
And there was it just scared me, but I just cannot. And I've been thinking about it, and I was up like about 4 or 5 times last night with the vision in my head. I had the worst sleep ever, and I'm so sad about this poor thing. But I know it's symbolic. I know it has something to do with something. I don't know. Maybe it is for you. I've been asking, but I haven't heard anything yet. I'll let you know.
Is something about something that's happened where you're killing that wolf energy, and it represented it. So I would look at it, I would turn it around and look at it as why it's a gift from nature, and why is it a gift for someone that's evolved.
Something not positive,
But when you're evolved, you're a very evolved person. So things don't happen unless there's a reason in some world.
I totally agree, but my sympathy and compassionate side just cried for an hour. Oh, but yeah, I think that's all part of nature's spirit too. And I think it was a very interesting weekend. I mean, I was up at North Bay, and the trees everywhere and everything blooming and blossoming. And then I ended up getting lost, and I found the most amazing pond. Well, I guess it was a lake, it must have been, but yeah, it was just a whole magical thing. And then as I was leaving, that happened, and I was just so I don't know, shot down from it in some way.
Yeah. How about you? How are your things going? Is it Sharon?
Sharon.
Yeah. How are things going with you and your experiences, Sharon?
Oh, good. I I just wanted to say, as Dana was telling her story with the wolf, I think that wolf was temporarily possessed with someone who's like a sister to her. Something weird. I don't know why. I just got this feeling that a spirit came in, and I don't know if that meant to happen, but that was weird. It was like it was a direct message for Dana, but you couldn't figure it out. Well, no, like
a sister from the other side, or
a sister from another life, from another time.
Huh.
It was a very close relationship, and it was like a message, but it kind of all went wrong. Is what it felt like.
It went wrong. It went very wrong.
It was supposed to be something else. It was supposed to be a better message. It just all went wrong.
Oh.
So that's what I got.
Okay.
Like if you had stopped and stared down the wolf and had a magical experience, that would have been something that you could you were supposed to take something away from that. It's like, but maybe you just looked away for the second and it didn't work out the way it was supposed to.
Well, I did look back. I did stop and I did look back, and I saw the poor animal struggling, and I knew that it wasn't past yet. But the cars on the road, I would have had to go right in the center of the highway if I was going to do anything for the animal. And I thought, I'm going to get killed. I can't do that.
No, the thing I thought would be like you stopped in time and you stared it down, not like you hurt the animal, because you don't want to go near an animal that's hurt. That could be dangerous. No, but I know I just saw this message that it was supposed to be like you're supposed to be staring at each other and communicating, except it just didn't work. Which is all went wrong.
Well, that makes sense. Well, that makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways, actually. If I'm referring it
supposed to be like,
how about some positive things that have occurred to you over? I always like to see.
It's been great. Everything's been really, really great. That's why I wonder why this happened. That's what I'm saying. Everything's been fantastic and falling into place.
That's great. That's
I know. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Not to bring it down. I don't want to be a downer, but I do know that it has something to do with it. I don't want to be that, but there is something symbolic about it.
There's certain times in my life before big changes that I always see some animal that's way out of place. Like I was living in Atlanta, and all of a sudden a coyote comes in my neighborhood, and I'm like, what the hell's a coyote doing in Atlanta? And then some major life change happened, and it's happened a few times where there's some sort of animal that's just not supposed to be there. That's a symbol that something's coming.
I feel something changing. That makes sense too. Well, I prayed to God and angels yesterday too, so there we go. Okay, on to the new subject.
Yay! Let's take it back positive.
Let's do that.
As far as Atala, Sharon's the one that really started getting me looking at nature spirits and telling me about, she said there was a gnome around, and I like, how does someone develop good relationships with nature spirits if they want them? Like, where do you start?
Well, you start listening to your friends who can see them. So,
now,
and then
some people really can see them, right? They look at it and they. How do you get to that point?
I think sometimes the nature spirit chooses you. And if you're lucky enough to have a gnome in your house, or to have a gnome in your yard or a leprechaun, that's a very good sign, and that's a way that you start out. Gnomes and leprechauns in a house are a really good fortune. If you have one in your yard, then you can make a little house for it and leave little gifts for it. People like to leave a little sweet and start to get to know it. And even though you think that it's your imagination, if you sit quietly and you start talking to the gnome and saying, I'd really like to talk to you, I'd like to understand, let's work together, let's play together. And then gradually, when something happens, the secret is that you can't think it's your imagination. because that's always the thing that humans do. They say, oh, it's just my imagination. I saw something pass behind me. It's just my imagination. You have to say, just for this week or this day, I am going to say this is real. If I say it's real, it's not going to hurt anyone, but it may take me someplace that I haven't been before. And then it leads you one step at a time to a belief and an understanding that these are real. These are real dimensions. So that would be my suggestion to you and to all of any of your listeners, is you have to believe, it's...
So at first you'll be like, well, maybe I saw something. You have to say, okay, I saw something, and I saw something, and believe it a few times, and then all of a sudden you start to really see something.
Right, or you don't. So, if you say, all right, I saw something and it keeps coming by and something keeps moving through past that door. What is it? All right, I saw something. And that changes you from putting up a shield. Most humans, when we're young, if you look at a baby, they're looking around and they're talking to something and you don't see anything. As they get older, they tell their parent, oh, I talked to the angels or I talked to the fairies, and their parents say, oh, that's nice. And then they get a little older and the parents say, you're a grown up now. You're a young boy. Those things aren't real. And you want your mother's love or your father's love. So you say next time they come, you're not real. My mom says you're not real. And then you start building a barrier. So one of the things that's important when you're an adult and you want to start understanding again is to give yourself permission to see. You have to say, all right, I saw when I was a child. I can see, I give my permission to see, and when I see something, I will acknowledge it and say it's real, not that it's fake. So that's a very important thing. Don't you agree, Sharon?
Yep.
Okay.
I also think that sometimes they follow people. I had a house guest who, I didn't know anything about this, but he believed in leprechauns, but didn't know anything about anything. And I just started talking to him about all this stuff, and he's getting all excited because he said he had seen something in my house that was, he's all excited because he saw something late at night. And it was really funny because I went to go say, well, let's look and see what it was. And I was reaching for this book that was describing, what everything looks like. And I go to reach on the bookshelf and the book's not there. Like, I know where the book is. It's not there. I've never seen it since. And then he gets all excited. He goes, that's exactly right where your hand is, exactly where I saw this. That was so funny. I never saw that book again. But that was kind of funny. But
they do. Go ahead.
They take things, right? Into their own realm.
They do everything they can to show if they're tricking you and they're doing tricks on you. It's because they're trying in some way to get you to acknowledge their existence. And if you simply say, all right, you're real, I know you're here, let's see how we can work together and do some fun things, but leprechauns do like to have tricks. They're the tricksters. Yeah.
I feel like I don't have any living here now after the tree is gone, but when, I had the house guest, I definitely had a lot of activity all over the place,
Uh-huh.
But I don't know how I would love to attract them back. It's just, you gotta, I don't know. What I learned is, like I've told Tarrin is, you do the lights, you could do bamboo, water, ask for them to come, but be nicer if you had greenery around, but I don't know if they would come and like to join you in your apartment building on the 10th floor, but I don't know.
Well,
so
it looks to me like that cat sitting behind Tarrin is representative of, I bet, a cat spirit that's wandering around his place. I think that's a manifestation.
I do feel like I keep seeing a distortion. I was thinking, I got something in my house that was small and it looks almost like a cat size. But if you guys ever seen the movie Predator, it looks like that, where it's like an invisible blur distortion is what I see. I don't know what it is. I was hoping it was a nature spirit, but I guess it could be a cat spirit. Who knows? I do love cats.
That's what they look like.
You see
know-
you say you see things out the side of your eye, right, Tarrin? Because that's how you see them
all the time. I don't look directly at them.
Yeah.
No, I can't look directly at them or they disappear. But if I focus on a spot, I'll see all kinds of movement.
Yeah, that's. It's like you could go to a berry bush and just stare at the bush and then see what you can see in the bush too. After a while, you can see them moving around.
You know what happens when I was first doing this, and I would see things and sense them, is I would get very, very still. And first of all, you have to get rid of the fear factor, or what is it? And I just say to myself, it's only energy. It's only energy. And if you get very still and say, all right, this is only energy. Who are you and what do you want? Because if, Tarrin, you're seeing something that keeps going by, it wants something. It either wants to be recognized, or it has a mission, or it wants to go to spirit and doesn't know how. It has a story. It's not pretend. It's a real life form that has a story. And what is the story? And that's all. Anytime you see anything from these other dimensions, is finding their story. So.
Well, for someone that's not experienced in this, they're brand new at this and they're figuring it out. How do they start listening? Or how do they start hearing a story?
Well, I think one of the ways is you can either do dowsing, and you can use some people use pendulums, and you can dowse and say, and that a pendulum just accesses your higher self that you can't consciously access, and say, do I see something here? And once you learn to work with a pendulum, you can get an answer that way. You can meditate. In meditation or reflection is where you're just silencing yourself. Now, some traditions, they want you to silence and not hear anything. For me, what I prefer to do is silence myself and walk into a room and see what life form is there. Because no matter how high and close you are to source, there's something living there. And what is it? So if you feel there's something around and you want to understand it, then just become very, very quiet, calm your energies, and start to identify with that frequency and find out who's there. Going to be somebody interesting.
You keep saying you shift your frequency. How do you do that? I mean, you make it sound like I could turn a radio station. How do you switch frequencies?
Yeah, you turn a radio station. That's really what it is. There are so many ways that you can do it. You can do it through meditation. You can do it through prayer. You could do it through loving a grandparent who died and you want to understand them. You can do it through dowsing. There are many ways, but it's kind of like hanging a wave. If you're surfing, you could get wiped out by the wave, or you could see how that energy is going and you flow with the energy. So doing interdimensional work and talking in other dimensions is just simply learning how to ride the waves. It's actually a very simple process once you learn it, but so is everything, isn't it? PhD is easy.
Dana, do you have something you want to add?
Well, you can actually change your frequencies and understand how you're doing it just by feeling how your body is when you're in your everyday life and you're motoring around doing what you need to do. Your energy is one way, but if you get into that meditative state, you kind of get you get familiar with how your brain frequency is. You get familiar with how your body is reacting. And that's how we're going into the different levels, the theta level, the beta level. And so you sort of have to be familiar with that as well. But that's how meditation helps, and the dowsing and the pendulum work. So, yeah, I think Dorothy explained it really well.
Yeah, and you explained it really well, Dana. That was a very good technical explanation.
Yeah, you want to add something, Sharon?
Yes. What I see is what I would say is, try to feel what it would feel like. Say, well, I don't know how to see nature spirits, but if you could see nature spirits, what would that feel like? Or what would that be like? But I can't do it. But if you could, what would that be like? What would it feel like? You know, and or if someone else could do it, can you match that energy? You know, can you do what they do, or think like they think, or just imagine that you're vibrating where they're vibrating.
So Sharon, is it good to
that
get
helps.
help in the beginning? Like, say you have a friend that's a lot more spiritual than you, to see if you could they vibrate and see if you can pick up them, or like, what do you mean?
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, when I learned to do the psychic readings, we would like sit in a row and we'd all match, and then we'd all kind of see the same thing, because I would just learn to match people. So, and then I just became very good at matching the environment. When you go to a healing seminar, like there's a couple that, healers do really, really good work, and they teach you a technique and it doesn't work so well. Well, when it doesn't work, it's because you're not matching that energy field. You're not running the gamma frequencies in your brain, or you're not doing whatever. So and I think that a lot of it does have to do with gamma. I mean, the Schumann resonance going up is helping us get into this state of gamma frequencies. But every time, when they talk about those monks that heal people, they're running this gamma frequency in their brain. They measure it. Other healers that I know have had their brains measured, and that's when the shifts happen. Maybe in the alpha, beta, all those others help too. But I know it's like the instant shifts happen in gamma. And I think that because the Schumann resonance is so high, this is running into the gamma frequencies, anything above 30, I heard. So people should be able to match. You should be able to tune into the frequency a lot easier, where things are actually real. When I'm looking at other, I'm doing a reading or something, it's like it's almost like you just go into this zone, and I don't know how to tell anyone how to do it other than feel it.
And once they do feel it, they can absolutely recognize the feeling.
Yes.
It's kind of the same every time. So think about it maybe as you're vibrating higher, yet you're very relaxed. You're very in the zone. You're very sort of, floating around, and you're vibrating very high. You're connecting. You're drifting off into the spirit world that you need to be in, yet you're present. But you can feel how your body's reacting to it. So once you actually recognize the feeling, it's pretty easy to turn it right back on. Once you get it, you can do it in a few minutes sometimes. So yeah, keep trying, and you'll know it when you know it.
Yeah, I've found that when I'm training people, any energy work, as Sharon pointed out, it's identification. And if you sit there and you work with someone else and you say, all right, now identify with this, you get them to identify with you. And then what they can, once they experience it, it's like once you know how to get to Rome, you can get back there again because you know it exists. Right. So if I take people out and I show them nature spirits and they get to take a photograph, all right, and they say, well, what am I going to do when I go back home? And I say, well, you've done it once. You know it can be done. You just have to get there again. So
when I show people auras, I always tell them, look at the trees, and they can't unsee it. They can't unsee it once they actually see it. And that's the amazing thing. But then again, I always say there's a little bit of a disclaimer than that. Once you can see energy, you can see all energy. So, that's and it's cool. It doesn't go away. Yeah. And your eyes automatically know how to see it as well.
And you got a lot of energy, light coming around your head. It's very beautiful.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
I actually had a friend who said, Dana, I watched your video and I can see your aura.
Mhm.
And she's going, I said, right on TV or right
Yeah.
on YouTube? And she says, yeah, you can see it. And especially when you got excited about conversations you were having, it went boing.
Right, right. It was every time you got excited, your aura was expanding out. It was very, very lovely
And
to
it's
see.
amazing that you can see that on camera.
I
I
feel
think
it.
that's
Dana,
fantastic.
it's really easy on camera for me. I see it on a lot of people, more than real life sometimes, because they're up against like a whiter wall. It's easier to see than them walking around the woods, or so I've seen it on you tons of times.
Oh, yeah? Huh. See,
A lot of our guests.
well, I haven't watched my own videos, so yeah,
Yeah, it's
just
crazy.
huge. Good. That's awesome.
I often see this, like if I'm looking at someone on a stage, I see the picture or their whole body, like go over here,
Yes.
go over there,
Mhm.
go over there. And sometimes it moves towards me and then eventually disappears. And then it just starts again.
Yep,
It's the
I've
weirdest
seen
thing.
that too. And it looks like they separate. Their body moves and then the aura's left behind. It's very strange.
But yeah, especially if you're on stage watching someone and somehow that's easier. It's like I can't not see that when I'm looking at someone on stage.
Okay, let me think of a color right now. We'll do a little bit of an experiment. So let me think of a color right now, and everybody in chat can kind of see what color they're seeing if they can see my aura.
Oh, your aura.
Yes,
Okay.
so that if they can see it around,
Let me lock it in on you. All right, let's do an experiment. All right,
I'm gonna try and change the color of it. Okay. Now, if anybody can see that, tell me what color it was, and then we'll see if you can see that too. That's cool. We're doing aura work tonight. I love it.
Well, they're about 15 seconds behind, so they're not going to see this for a second.
Okay.
So
well,
nobody's picking a color, but I know what I'm going to say. So.
All right. Perfect.
I will wait because the guests should really. Adelaide should.
Well, I'm seeing a blue-green, so.
That I was seeing almost a teal blue like your shirt, but then it being overwritten by a really green, like coming in and just taking out the bluish.
The bluish. So I've got
orange,
lots of orange.
I saw blue. I saw blue, then go to green, and then at the very end it became a little gold. It shifted.
Yeah.
Blue, blue, blue. Everybody's saying blue, blue and orange. And orange was what it was, but blue is my general aura. So when I'm, just day to day, everybody always tells me I'm blue. But I was thinking orange.
Well, that's interesting because blue's the opposite of orange. So.
Well, that's true. It's on the opposite color wheel.
Yeah.
Oh, so maybe it was shifting. Right. That's why we were seeing what happens when blue goes to orange. What color do you need? I forgot what it is on the color wheel. How do you make orange?
Red and yellow.
Red and yellow.
Red and yellow. Yeah.
But the opposite of it is orange, blue and orange. Go.
That was fun.
That was fun. I know.
That's really weird. We were all wrong exactly the same way. Where is that? How does that sound familiar?
Or maybe you were seeing something. Maybe you were seeing something else.
Yeah, maybe you're thinking a color, but you're saying another because we're all seeing blue, blue and green.
And blue and orange. Well, orange is the color that I was thinking. So very good. That was cool.
I don't think I've ever seen an orange aura.
Oh, no?
Ever. I don't think so.
I see it on very happy, outgoing, friendly people. They radiate the orange. And yeah, but that's when they're like, oh, really social and, out doing all the charity work. I see lots of orange people.
You go look at the chat. A lot of people were yelling orange. So there's some in there that saw it.
And red. I see some red. People were seeing that.
Red,
We should just do a class on. That'd be fun to do an online thing one night of just.
Yeah, I don't know how we would do that. That would be kind of tricky.
Just have different people come on, and we'll just do this over and over until we get it right.
Well, I do an aura class, so if we can transpose it onto YouTube somehow, I'd be more than happy to do it. Everybody would have to sit behind white walls, though.
That'd be fun.
That would be fun. And actually, Dorothy, I wanted to ask you one question, and sorry to jump off a topic, but
Yeah.
I saw a little fairy one time, and it actually responded to me. Can they, you know, it was one of those nights where I was by myself, sitting out by the campfire, and this fairy was reacting to how I was reacting to it. Do you have that experience, or have you ever heard of that?
Well, I think it was trying to get your attention and work with you. The fairies, I talk to fairies and different kinds of nature spirits all the time. So what they do is they come and they ask you to speak to them, and then if you don't, then they just lose interest and they go on, unless they are something that they specifically want you to deal with. So.
Because it did stay with me for about 20 minutes, and every time I said a word, it would jump, or if I were to move closer to it, it would jump back, and then I would say, I'm not going to hurt you, and it would jump forward, and it was just a very interesting thing, but I wasn't really, I knew it was there, and I knew we were having this experience, but I wasn't telepathically communicating with it because I couldn't hear it. So I was just wondering what that was about. That was many years ago, but I thought it was a very interesting night.
Well, maybe you could next time, if that ever happens, ask if there's something it wants, or some way that we, you know. You did.
I did. I talked to it for about 20 minutes, and every time I said a word, it jumped.
Cool.
I think you got to remember that they are used to coming and going and being all over the place and never being seen. So you might have been the very first person that's ever seen it, and it just freaked out. It's like, what? You can see me?
I can see a lot of things I'm not supposed to see.
Yeah, that's a good observation, Tarrin. That's probably
they're startled probably when you can see them.
Oh, it was because I would walk up to it and I was like, what are you? And I was like very interested and compelled by it, and I was by myself. And don't you hate that? Because you always want somebody there to say, do you see that? You know, but nobody else was there with me. But yeah, it was responding to me. It was a very
Dana, did you see it in your mind or physically? Like, was it the size of like a firefly?
It was a big, it looked like a big pill, like a big, huge pill, but it was lime green, and it was about 11 o'clock at night. And it was in the tree. It was in those little, I don't know what kind of tree it is. I don't know the name of it, but cedar tree. And it was jumping in the leaves. So it was kind of hard to see. So I got up and I walked over and I was trying to communicate with it. And in my rational brain, I'm trying to think, what would be glowing at 11 o'clock at night sitting in a tree? And as I went up and I was curious, and it knew I was curious, and then when I moved closer to it, it jumped back, and I said, I'm not going to hurt you. It jumped forward the minute I finished the sentence. And then it just would jump back and forth and kind of play with me as 20, 30 minutes, and then it just went away. Then it was just gone. I couldn't see it anymore. Just like that. Just disappeared.
Very neat.
Yeah.
I've seen these pictures of little fairy skeletons, and then I did see a YouTube video of someone who's supposed to have had a live one that looked pretty real to me. And I'm wondering, with the Mandela effect, who knows, we could have jumped into a universe where those things exist. But do you think that that there's really I guess they were about this big with wings, a humanoid with wings. Have you heard about that being actually real in the physical?
Yeah.
Did you ever get any photos of something that clear? Natalia?
I haven't myself, but each of us has an affinity for a certain spectrum of consciousness, and that's not a spectrum that I am particularly have an affinity for. I have more, I'll get the green men, or I'll get the moss fairies or the gnomes, and those I see a lot, but I haven't seen the other. But if you see it, it's real. It's a reality in some world, and you just need to figure out why you see it. Is that something to do with your mission and your particular path in life? There's always a reason why you can see in. So,
Very
do you find some reason why you might have seen it, Sharon?
Just vibrating. I felt like it was just vibrating at the same frequency at the same time. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, because there are infinite frequencies in the universe. That's one thing my team told me when I did well one time, and I was very proud of myself. And they said, "Congratulations, man, you did such a great job. You really mastered this." Pause, and here's a bigger playpen. And then, you're in a different world with different rules and that you have to master, and a different reality, different aspect of the infinite source. So it'd be interesting. You should explore. What did you have a client that came after you saw that you needed that experience for? That often happens with me.
no, I don't remember, but it could have been. I wasn't paying attention. Yeah. So,
have you?
do you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If somebody just wanted to attract the nature spirits, other than, I mean, I know that the water bamboo lights would work for the fairies and gnomes and stuff, but if you just want to attract nature spirits, do you have any other ideas? Just curious.
Nature spirits are all around us. Everything's all around us because above time and space, everything's one. But if you want to attract them, the best thing to do is to go someplace that needs help. Maybe there's a polluted stream or a tree that needs some help, and just sit quietly and say, "I would like to work with you to help in this situation. Would you like to work with me?" And since we are their arms and legs in the physical world, that attracts them more than anything else you can do, because you're meeting their need and they're reciprocating by communicating with you. So find something in your own backyard that you need some help with. So.
Well, I'm growing plants now, so I'm going to be asking them to come help for the plants. So.
I made a deal when my cat was missing. I asked that tree, the certain one, I was like, "Look, you guys, nature spirits, you help me get this cat back, and I'll come and clean all this litter around here that people dumped." And the cat came back, so I went out and cleaned the litter. So kept my word to him. But that wasn't easy.
Wasn't there a spider involved in this somehow, though?
There was.
I remember a spider being involved.
There was a totem. But I find cleaning litter gets their attention.
And how did the spider fit in?
What'd you say?
How did the spider fit in?
Oh, a spider's always been kind of this is a whole nother story. So
it's a good story.
Oh, I know, but we're okay. This is so bad. So basically, I was going through a transformation where I hit a bad spot in my life, and I was trying to turn it around and become, a much better person. And right around my lowest time, a spider bit me right in the ass. It bit me in my ass. I mean, this thing was bright purple red, and it was bad. Like, I went to the doc, and they were like taking pictures. They were like, "Holy cow!" It was a bad bite. Like, he bit me multiple times, and after that, I figured it was a way that they wanted to get my attention. So after that, me and the spiders have had a cool relationship. Like, I put them outside. We're at a good place, and they even come to me in dreams and give me information. So like, a spider, I guess, is some sort of nature totem for me, or a spirit that got my attention the hard way. We made peace.
The spider is one of my totems too. It's for writers. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I'm an author, so I see it. When I see it in my head, what it does is it's this giant web, and it brings me information. It runs on the web and dumps stuff in my head. Like, that's what it does in my dreams.
Right, and according to the Native Americans, they say you're not supposed to kill your totem if it's in the house, but I got overrun with spiders from a pine tree, so I talked to my team and I said, all right, if you are in my house, you're in enemy territory, you're a bully, and I can protect myself. If you're outside, I respect you and where you are. So you always have to make sure there's equal respect when you're working with all animals, even your totem.
And they will listen to you. I can tell bees to move away. They'll listen to you. They hear you. They hear your energy. And I know people get all afraid with bees and get the raid can out and I lose my mind and don't kill the bees. Just tell it to move away, and they actually do.
Yeah, some people will give part of their garden to the rabbits or the animals and say, this is your part and the rest is mine. So, and that works for some people.
Yep.
Yeah.
But how do the rabbits know what part is yours and what part's theirs?
Yeah, well, you have to specify. Since you're setting up your garden, you need to go out there and say, all right, I've set apart this. You may have, 1/8 of the garden and the rest is mine, or whatever it is. So
put a fake bunny in it.
yeah, you need to negotiate it, Sharon.
I love this conversation. I love nature.
I can't imagine someone tuning in right now and just being like, what are they talking about?
You can talk to these creatures. They can hear you by energy, by frequency. It's quite amazing.
Kate saved a wasp one day, and this wasp had come in. They had come out way too early in the winter. They were in the house, and she was like feeding it. It had no strength. She was feeding it like a pineapple or something to keep it alive. And finally, when the weather warmed up, we brought it outside, let it out. And this thing would come and land on her, hang out. It was like a pet after that. It was crazy.
And it was never going to sting her.
No, it hung out on her. Like, when she came out, they would come and visit her. I was like, what the hell?
Kate's got it. Kate knows what to do with the animals.
It really remembered. It associated her with food or something, or I don't know. But it was crazy. I never think of making friends with a wasp. I guess I can make friends with spiders. I don't know.
Except for that one.
Well, he had to send me a message, and I don't know if he died. I don't think he did. He just came through and bit and ran. It was bad, man. I woke up and I was like, man, my butt's so sore. Did I pull it? What happened? And then I looked in the mirror and it was, I'm not going to show you the picture, but it's ridiculous. Like, it is purple.
And did you listen?
Oh, yeah. I got my act together.
Good.
It definitely started me down the right path. It was like, okay, I got it. You don't have to beat me up anymore, universe. I got it.
Well, that's good. It's nice you listened. You didn't have to go through it again.
Yeah, I'm sure it's around. If I start sliding backwards, it'll send me another. It'll straighten me out. All right. Well, anyway, we are past the 2-hour mark. I don't know, Atala, if you know, we have a chat room that we go into after this. It's called the Discord chat room. It's kind of like an old school group call where you can talk to people that want to ask you questions and get your advice, maybe talk about your books, that sort of stuff. If you're interested, I would love to invite you in for a half hour. Just come hang out with us, chat informally.
That would be fine. Is that live chat there or something?
No. It'll actually change to, I'll have to send you a little link. It's called a Discord app. And I'll drop you in there, and then you can actually voice chat with people that want to meet you. We usually invite
I want to
guests
meet you again.
So we'll go over to Discord in a few minutes. I do have a little housekeeping. I do want to thank you guys for the donations. I saw Magi and Dana. Dana, I don't know why you keep donating to me, but thank you. And then on top of that, and CPR Mama, thanks. You just dropped $5. I appreciate that. The donations keep the show running while YouTube is in a disastrous place right now with the boycott. Also, what we're doing to make ends meet is if you're going to go shopping on Amazon, I'd really appreciate it if you go in through my link first. If you go in through my link, it doesn't cost you any extra, but Amazon just gives me a little kickback for sending them business. So if you're going to go shopping for gardening stuff, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you're going to go to Amazon, don't go to Amazon first. Go through my link first. It'll take you like to one of my books, and then just shop around and it keeps track of it, whatever. You don't have to buy like my book or something. You just come in through that. Now, speaking of that, Atala has her books on Amazon. So if you're interested in buying her books, I have linked one below. It'll take you right in through my link. It's right in the description there if you want to see her books. She's got some really interesting books. And also, I also have a link to her YouTube channel. And Atala, also, if people want to come look at your crystals and see your pictures and all that stuff, how do they find you?
Well, they can go into crystal-life.com, and there's a link to all the products, the books, and a link to my art gallery where they can see the different images.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, if you're in the Northeast, aren't you having a showing right now?
I am out in St. Charles. There's a gallery of nature. I have a solo exhibit of 30 of my photographs.
Wait, what state is that?
That's in Illinois, St. Charles, Illinois, and you can pop onto my website and get the information for that. So,
well, when
that's
you come
a
up,
really nice place.
when you come out to your family in New Hampshire, please email me and we'll go out and find some trees, because I've got a cool tree. I don't know if you saw the promo video for this, but I filmed a tree that looked like a fish.
Yes, I saw
Yeah,
that.
I saw it.
I thought that was kind of cool, but I don't know if that's legit or not.
Well,
My friend told me it looked like Elf.
It was my first try. I don't know. It looks like something. I haven't figured out what.
Congratulations.
There you go. Yeah, I thought it was a Cabbage Patch Kid at first. I wasn't sure.
That's okay. I used to have a bathroom where there was faces in the paint, and I would show it to the children, and they couldn't go to the bathroom anymore because they would put faces all over the bathroom.
They're always stared at. Ladies, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the room. Each of you guys will have 2 minutes to say whatever you want before we part, and then we will go hop over to Discord. If you are new and this is the first time you're here listening, we will drop the Discord chat here in the, you'll see a link. All you do is hit it, and it'll bring you in, and Marlena or somebody will be there to walk you through how it works. I'll be over there in a little bit. Also, I do need to thank my moderator. I think Marlena and Liz, you guys were both here tonight. I really appreciate that. Thank you for that. Okay, Sharon, let's start with you. Parting comments. You got 2 minutes to say whatever you like.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention that we talked about little spirits, but we didn't talk about big spirits. And one time I saw like a huge giant in the ocean, like the ocean was up to his knees, and it was interesting. And I got that it was telling me that it took care of the water. That was its job, was taking care of the water. I don't know what that was, but so when you're going to look, you can look for small or normal size, but they can also be like huge, and nobody ever thinks of that. So I thought that was interesting. But I'll join you all in the Discord chat. That's kind of fun. And yeah, this was really informative. I learned a lot. I really enjoyed this, and I feel like I want to go out and start photographing. I just go look for spirits. I don't photograph, but great idea. So
thanks so much.
Okay, I'll see y'all on Discord.
Yeah, I'll see you in Discord. If you want to stick around in case they have a comment.
Okay.
Dana, go ahead. You're in the next, whatever you like to say.
Good. Well, thank you for having me. This has been wonderful. Thanks, Dorothy. I think your pictures are great. I'm going to buy your book. I think it's going to be a very interesting thing to look at. I hope you come over to Discord. It's actually a pretty neat little platform that they have there. So really, it was amazing, Sharon. It's always nice to see you. Tarrin, thank you so much for putting on the show. The reason I donate is because I want to keep the show going, because I really, really enjoy it. So that's the reason I donate. And
I always feel weird when it's like a guest that donates to me. I'm like, you're a panelist. You don't need to donate.
Yeah, but I watch more than I'm on the panel. So I always figure, give it to where you want to give it, and I appreciate what you do.
It'll probably go into my garden. So thank you.
Perfect. Name a rock after me or something. So that sounds good. Okay, we'll see you in Discord. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye.
Okay, Atala.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you very much for inviting me on to your wonderful show and the good work that you do. And thank you to Sharon and Dana. It was very nice to meet you both. And it's always nice to hang out with like-minded people who believe in the reality of other dimensions and to see how they perceive it. It's a huge universe. Everybody sees it differently. Everybody is right. And part of my journey and part of all of our journey is to keep expanding and learning more. So hopefully more and more people will be watching these kinds of shows and joining the group. So thank you.
Well, we'd love to have you back sometime. We really never even got into dowsing or that much about interdimensional communication. So if you're willing to come back for another show sometime, we could pick
Sure.
up on those topics. I'd like to learn all about dowsing. I don't know much about it.
Certainly. I'd love to come back and visit.
Yay!
Okay.
All right, thank you guys so much.
Okay.
I'm really appreciative to the mods and the guests that stopped by and came into the live show tonight. This was I thought it was an awesome topic. I love the pictures. It was a lot of fun. And so hopefully it opened your eyes a little bit. Please stop into the Discord, hang out with us tonight. We'll be up and about. I'll be over there in a few minutes, and so will our guest. Other than that, I really love all you guys, and thanks so much for the support. As always, be nice, support each other, love each other, be nice to your cat. I think I screwed that up, but you know what I meant. So bye, guys. Love y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.